I'm Brad Christman, and we have introduced you to Elizabeth Herrington, a psychic medium in Bucks County who claims she can communicate with anyone's deceased loved ones. It's a fantastic claim and one that can only be believed if Elizabeth can come up with specific personal details, names, events, and anything else that could only be known within a family. So there's only one way to truly investigate this claim. I had to offer myself up for a reading and give Elizabeth a chance to prove to me that there really is something to her ability. To prepare, I first turned to the internet. As we all know, information about just about anyone can be found with nothing more complicated than a simple Google search. So I typed in my own name and spent some time investigating just how much information there was about me on the World Wide Web. I was able to find plenty of information about my career, also a few references to some other organizations I belonged to in my personal time, but absolutely nothing about my personal life, nothing about family histories, and my name is not connected to any web-published obituaries of my deceased loved ones. It's also important to point out that Elizabeth and I had not met before this reading, and in fact, our only communication prior to this interview was via email. We had never even spoken on the telephone, so I had not inadvertently revealed anything about my family ahead of time. Now, this is the awkward part for me, because before we go any further, I need to reveal some personal details about my life and my family. Not a comfortable thing for a journalist to do, but it is necessary to give you some insight into what Elizabeth said during my reading. We'll start with the most recent death in my family, which was my grandfather on my mother's side. He passed away from congestive heart failure in 2005. He lived his entire life in the country, and those are private details which Elizabeth had no way of learning by any conventional means.
I am feeling a male coming through very strong. And I feel for some reason it seems like he's standing in on the mom's side. Is this your mother's father connection? Is your mother's father in spirit?
Yeah.
He's the first one. I feel a real strong connection to your mom's side of the family.
Really?
Okay, first of all, he said you knew him, your mother's father.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not like he was a grandfather that died a long, long time ago. He's someone that was very big in your life when you were growing up. Feels like both your mom's parents were very strong as well. But your the grandfather seems to be really strong. So he seems also too, I'm just going to have him lower his energy. He seems like a relatively strong looking guy. He seems like about maybe 5'10", 5'9", 5'10". Not a 6-footer, but he looks strong. And for some reason too, he likes the countryside, or he seems like he liked to be in the country. And I feel for some reason too, he said he was blessed to live really close to you guys when you were young. So I think that he partook a lot in your life. I'm also getting, let me go back here. He's saying very strong that his energy is strong, and for some reason too, he's going like this a lot in his chest area. Okay, so I think there was some cardiac issues with him that
He's rubbing his chest is what you're saying.
Yeah, he's rubbing his chest like cardiac,
Yes.
lung congestive type feeling I feel with him. He felt blessed in his life, that he lived fairly long in his life. He wishes he lived a little bit longer, but he's also acknowledging too that he didn't want to leave your grandmother. There is another link coming in, so we just hold that off there. Also too, I don't know why, but I feel a farm connection. Is there a farm? Did he have a farm?
Yes. Well, it wasn't an active farm, but it had the red barn and all that.
Okay, because I feel that I can see the grass, I can see the home, I can see it off the road a little bit. They had a lot of good years there. They lived there a long time. And also too, I am feeling, does Ann mean anything? Is there an Ann connection to the family?
Well, you're getting close to my living grandmother's name.
Ann.
Yeah.
Okay, Angela. No, wait, let me go back here. He loved her very much. She's doing pretty well, actually, his wife, and he's acknowledging that. There's some change there, so I don't know if she's living with your mom or there's some connection. There's going to be some change where she's going to
She is living with my mom.
But
yes.
it was hard for her to do that because she was always a very independent person. She's very, I want to say A-N, but it's not A-N. Is it A-N? Because he's mentioning her name.
You're right on the first syllable.
Ann. I mean, okay, Ann.
That's pretty good though.
Okay,
I mean, I can tell you if you want me to tell you.
Don't tell me.
Okay.
See if that comes through very soon. But
All right.
he's saying Ann or Anne Marie or Annie. I hear that very strong.
Anne Marie. Elizabeth was focused on a name similar to that while she said she was communicating with my deceased grandfather. My grandmother's name? Anna Lee. So she had my attention. Elizabeth so far had been correct on my grandfather's cause of death, the kind of home he lived in, and the fact it was rural and near where I grew up. She also was very accurate in describing his physical appearance, and she latched on to the fact that my mother was now living with my grandmother. All that in just the first 3.5 minutes. One of the bonds I shared with this grandfather came as a result of a story that wasn't all that funny to me when it happened, but eventually became one of the great running jokes in the family. In my early teens, my grandfather let me drive his tractor. This was a big tractor, and I promptly drove it straight through a fence in his yard. It was one of those things you never really live down. It's at this point I will also share with you that my grandfather's name was Robert. Now that you know that, listen to what Elizabeth said next.
Something about, he's talking about his tractor. I don't know why he's mentioning that, but there's some joke about his tractor. So I don't know if there's some issue going on with that right now. Or
Okay,
there's something that he says to mention that.
Well, there's actually an old story about a tractor, and
He says,
yeah, you just gave me my first chill of the day,
I'm sorry.
actually. That's
I'm
all right.
sorry. He says to mention that very strong. And also, too, he's very casual. And he also likes music. I don't know why. They listen to music a lot sometimes. Not play it, but they like to listen to it because they don't look like really big TV type people.
No, there was always a radio on.
Yeah. Because I don't see the televisions much, but there's always something in the kitchen in the background.
Yeah.
And also, too, does Robert mean anything?
As a journalist, I'm naturally skeptical about, well, everything. My analytical mind often has difficulty believing anything that cannot be explained by pure scientific evidence. But as I now sat with Elizabeth, I have to admit I had goosebumps. To recap, in just 5 minutes, she got my grandfather's name, his physical description, the type of home he lived in, and even more specific details like the joke about the tractor and the fact that music was always playing in the kitchen of my grandparents' home, things that seemingly no one could possibly know unless they knew my family personally. Elizabeth also said my grandfather wanted to send a message to someone in the family.
He's mentioning December. Is there a December connection? December birthday connection?
There's a December birthday in the family.
He sends love to that person.
That's my mother.
He's
Yeah.
loves. Okay, that's okay. It's your daughter. Okay, that's his
His
daughter.
daughter,
He
yeah.
sends love to her. So Robert's sending love to his daughter, which is a December birthday. I feel Christmas, but it feels a little before.
My mother's birthday is December 13th. Now, my grandfather Robert is not the only person my family has lost over the years, and considering that I'm closing in on 40 years old myself, it would be a good guess that I would have deceased grandparents, so anyone trying to put on a show for me might try to go with the grandparent angle. But as Elizabeth continued the reading, she said she was sensing another person trying to come through, someone who died young. I had a cousin, one that I did not know very well, who died as a teenager in a car accident in 1989. His name was Michael, and truth be told, since I didn't know him very well, I hadn't thought about him in years. We'll continue now with Elizabeth Herrington's reading.
Michael. Is there a Michael connection to the family?
Yeah.
Living Michael?
No.
Okay, because I hear Michael very strong. Is this to your father's side connection?
Yeah.
Okay, is this your grandfather, Michael? Or someone very
No.
close to him? Because I feel that,
No.
or he's related to him.
He's related.
And he
yeah.
says to say hi. He's trying to come through. He doesn't seem that old to me. He's kind of younger, like around your age maybe even a little younger. Passed relatively quickly. And he says, it just was here today, gone tomorrow. And I think his parents are still here. There's parents to him that are still living. He said he's been over, it's been a little while that he's been over there. But it was like here today, gone tomorrow. It feels almost like accidental, or it just happened that way. I don't really
Yeah.
see an illness to him at all. I think his passing affected his mother terribly, and I think he misses her a lot. So he may be trying to come in too as well. Also D, I want to say D very strong. If it's David,
There is a David
living.
living.
Okay, they're
Yes.
sending love to him, acknowledging him. But this might be back to your family. Is there a living David in your family?
Well, yeah, that's someone in my family that.
Yeah, it's different from Michael. This is a David living. Like Michael's over there, but and he says to say hi, and he says, "You know me."
David is Michael's father, actually.
He sends love
My
to
uncle.
David. Okay, because he's a living. That's okay, because there was a living link he wanted to acknowledge.
Yeah.
He said, "You will see him sometimes." He said, "Tell him that I'm okay." He died very quickly. He didn't have a whole lot of pain. He just didn't want to go. But he's a little sorry that it happened the way it did. He said he should have been a little bit more careful. And I feel like everything was fast.